let's jump into causation versus correlation and talk about what it means and how using it correctly can make you make better decisions in your business. So let's start with the definition. What is causation and what is correlation? So correlation is when two things happen at the same time. I was reading this article, and it was talking about, like, correlation versus causation fallacies, which is when you think something is linked but it's not. So there was one. It was like the divorce rate in Maine versus the amount of diaper sales in the United States. And if you look at that graph over time, they went up and down together. Those data points mirrored each other. They looked almost identical. And it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out that diaper sales and divorce rates don't really align. Um, at least not from the U.S. to Maine. So it's kind of comical, and there's some articles on that show you all sorts of random data points. You'll see these two data points that have, that, as any common sense person knows that these things have nothing to do with each other, but the data looks similar. And that's what correlation is. Correlation is when two or more data sets move at a similar scale over a period of time. In other words, two stocks go up and down at the same time, two statistics go up and down at the same time at a same or similar rate. That's called correlation. Causation is when one thing is provably directly caused another thing to happen. In other words, A happened and therefore B happened. You know, um, I drove recklessly and ran through a stoplight and then caused an accident. That's a causation. Um, Correlations are all over the place, and the risk here and the business side, especially when it comes to marketing, sales, operation, business data, is we can see a number in our business going up or see a number in our business going down, and then we can see another thing that's going up or down, and we think that one is causing the other, and it's not necessarily true. Most of the younger business people that I have as clients, people that are less experienced, tend to make emotional decisions, very emotional. And they're very quick to make rash decisions like, oh, this marketing didn't work. Oh, that sales process didn't work. I lost profit on this job. And all of a sudden, they change policies and change procedures and change everything, not understanding that the call they just made was a correlation and not a causation, right? So I'm going to tell a quick example, kind of talk about an example I heard recently and what I think was wrong with it, and what I think the better outcome would have been. So a Facebook friend of mine was talking about how his paint business um, was getting low website visits and low conversions or leads because of a data point, right? Specifically, that searchers in his area were searching for his services less. And so that's a data point that all of those could be measured. You can look at your website analytics and see that traffic is down, impressions are down, leads are down. That's a feelable metric in any business. You can also look at tools and see, like, hey, like, I can look at like Google Trends and see search volume over keywords over a period of time. You can also do it with other tools, other paid and other free tools. But the point here is that he took a metric, and his leads were down from an SEO standpoint, and he took a metric and asserted with utmost confidence that this one thing is the thing that caused this other thing. So A caused B. And when I looked at it, I immediately had a half a dozen different questions and asked him about different things. And after the conversation, we ended up figuring out together, him looking at some things and me looking at some things and presenting some ideas and other things for him to consider. We actually found out that the data point that he thought was causing the lack of leads wasn't the data point that was actually causing the lack of leads. It was something else. And so that's my big takeaway here is, when we look at something, just because two things happened at the same time doesn't mean that one thing caused another. And as smart business owners that we want to be, it makes sense to take a beat and to dig into the data and look at not just the data here, but look at other factors around it and see if we can figure out what is actually going on, what is actually causing the change. Um, and there's a number of examples. I mean, we could sit here and list tons of examples, but one thing would be, like that example with, hey, this one data point is down, therefore my leads are down, right? So you could say, hey, my cost on this one thing went up, my leads are down, therefore one caused the other. Well, those might just be something as simple as like intermediate symptoms. Maybe the real cause was, a pixel setting or a form setting or like loads of other things that can happen inside of a marketing and sales cycle. So anytime the big takeaway here is anytime something goes wrong or right, we need to spend the amount of time needed to correctly determine causation. And I know that can be tricky, and there's no one rule that you can use to apply for every scenario. There's a lot of logic and things that you would need to do. But I would say the big takeaways is just don't act emotional. Don't go with a gut reaction. Just assume that's it and move on and make a determination for your business. What you should do is say, hey, this thing happened. I think it may be this one thing, but I need to give myself time. I want to take a look at not just this data point that I think it might be, but let's take a look at some other data points around it. Let's take a look at other systems that are touching this one system. So going back to my Air Force example, you might come with like a symptom like maybe a light went out on a plane, right? Light bulb's not like gonna, crash the plane, but it could prevent visibility and some other things. So they say, hey, this light went out. Your first instinct, everybody's first instinct is a light bulb went out, right? But that's not always the case. You could even test the light bulb and go, oh, that works. Well, then it must be some other thing. But it could be like a relay of a safety switch with a circuit breaker with a bad wire. Like it could be 5 layers deep that cause a light bulb not to turn on because the systems around the aircraft have so many interconnected systems. Like the hydraulic systems are connected to the electronic systems, are connected to the pneumatic systems, are connected to the fuel systems. Like just about everything talks to everything else through a series of relays and circuit breakers and computers and all these other things. And sometimes something that's very, very obvious, at least at first glance, you're like, that's wrong. This must be the problem. This must be what it is. When you really dig, sometimes it's not. And those assertions, when you make those assertions in business, they can lead you to make really, really wrong decisions and go really, really down a bad path. And so I would say that, when you're thinking about marketing, when you're thinking about sales, even when you think about operations and profits and finance and everything else in your business, every time something good or bad happens, one of your responsibilities is to note what's working and what's not in your business. But I would just challenge you to, instead of creating a instinct gut emotional reaction that could be based on an implied correlation, that you take a second, you take a beat, dig a little bit deeper and make sure that A caused B and not A and B were just happening at the same time. So in that example, my buddy, he wanted, the good part is he wanted to make change and he was looking for a problem. And, he was trying to affect a positive outcome for his company. Where he went wrong is he went with a gut reaction, and the gut reaction ended up proving not right. And where he could have went better is by saying, hey, this thing is down. Let me give it an hour, 2 hours, whatever it takes. Let me dive in and look at other data sources around it. Maybe ask a couple peers, hey, this one thing in my business is down. I think it might be this. What else could it be? Is there anything else that could be affecting this? Something I'm not thinking about, something I haven't decided or been aware of. Decided's the wrong word. Been aware of something I just completely overlooked, didn't notice that could be connected. And so sometimes, just giving yourself a little more time or asking for help or even just Google and YouTube searches can help you associate different things in your business that may make some better changes. Hey, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. If you're looking for help growing your contracting business, I invite you to join my free community. In there, we go live with amazing trainings, share resources and downloads, plus you get free help from me and from peers. That link is down below to join, and we'll see you in the next video.